My daughter locked my 68-year-old sister in my basement for 5 days. I returned from an Alaskan cruise to find Ruth collapsed on the concrete floor, dehydrated and covered in bruises. When she whispered, Jessica took everything. She said I deserved it for being weak. My shock turned to cold, calculated fury. I would make my daughter pay for every single hour Ruth suffered. Before I continue, let me tell you how I got here. My name is Eleanor Whitmore. I'm 62. A retired CPA who spent 40 years balancing other people's books and cleaning up their financial mistakes. I raised Jessica alone, after my husband died when she was 6. I gave her everything. Private school, college tuition paid in full, a down payment on her first apartment, money for her wedding to Derek. Over the years, I documented every penny. $127,000 in total. Not loans, gifts. I never asked for repayment because that's what mothers do. My sister Ruth was different. She'd survived breast cancer 3 years ago, spent her retirement savings on treatment, and lived modestly on Social Security. When her life insurance policy matured last April, $180,000 became the safety net she'd never had. Ruth was careful with money, almost paranoid about it. She kept most of it in a high-yield savings account and lived in my guest house rent-free. We were close, probably closer than most sisters. I was her medical proxy, her emergency contact, her person. Jessica knew all of this. She knew Ruth's schedule, her routines, where she kept her documents. She knew Ruth trusted her completely. And she knew I'd be on that Alaskan cruise for 7 days, with no cell service from September 8th through the 15th. My retirement gift to myself, booked a year in advance, non-refundable. The day before I left, September 7th, Jessica stopped by my house in Hartford. She looked stressed, dark circles under her eyes, clothes wrinkled. Derek was in the car, didn't come inside. That should have been my first warning. Mom, can we talk? She sat at my kitchen table, the same table where I'd helped her with homework 25 years ago. Of course, sweetheart. What's wrong? Derek's business is struggling. We're behind on rent, about to be evicted. I know you've helped us before, but this time it's different. This time we have a real opportunity. I felt my shoulders tense. Here we go again. What kind of opportunity? She pulled out glossy brochures. A cryptocurrency investment platform promising 40% returns in 6 months. My CPA instinct screamed scam immediately. How much? I asked, though I already knew this would be substantial. $50,000. I know it sounds like a lot, but Mom, this is our chance to finally get ahead. Derek has insider information. We could double, maybe triple the investment. I studied the materials. Unregistered company, offshore accounts, grammatical errors in the prospectus. Classic Ponzi scheme, red flags everywhere. Jessica, this is fraud. Look at these promises. No legitimate investment guarantees 40% returns. This is exactly like the MLM scheme you lost $15,000 on 2 years ago, and the dropshipping business that cost you $8,000, and the Forex trading platform that took another $12,000. Her face hardened. You're always like this, never willing to believe in me or Derek. You just want us to stay poor while you sit on your retirement money. I'm protecting you from losing everything you have left. We don't have anything left. Her voice cracked. Don't you get it? We're about to be homeless. Our car is getting repossessed next week. Derek's parents won't help us anymore. You're our last hope. I took a deep breath. This was the moment I'd been dreading for years. No, Jessica. I won't fund another scam. She stood abruptly. Then we have nothing more to discuss. Sweetheart, please. Let me help you properly. I can review your budget, help you find legitimate work, connect you with a financial counselor. I don't need a counselor. I need a mother who actually supports her family. She grabbed her brochures and left without another word. I sat there for a long time after she drove away, staring at my packed suitcase for the cruise. Part of me wanted to cancel, to stay and try to fix things with Jessica. But Ruth talked me out of it that evening, when I walked over to her guest house. Eleanor, you've been planning this trip for a year. Jessica is a grown woman. She needs to learn that her choices have consequences. Go on your cruise. Have fun. I'll be fine here. I'll water your plants and check your mail. I hugged her. You're sure? I feel guilty leaving right after that fight. Positive. Jessica will cool down. You two always work things out. If I'd known what Jessica was planning, I would have canceled everything. I would have stayed home and protected Ruth. But I didn't know. I couldn't have known how far my daughter had fallen. The cruise was exactly what the brochure promised. Glaciers, whales, salmon dinners, and 7 blissful days with no cell service. I thought about Jessica occasionally, hoped she'd calm down, planned to reach out when I got back to smooth things over. I had no idea that while I was watching icebergs calve into the ocean, my sister was locked in my basement, slowly dying of dehydration. I landed in Seattle on September 15th at 3 p.m. My phone exploded with notifications as soon as I turned it back on. 18 missed calls from Jessica, 12 from Derek, 6 from numbers I didn't recognize. Voicemails that made no sense. Mom, call me immediately. Eleanor, this is urgent. We need to talk about Ruth. My hands shook as I called Jessica back. She answered on the first ring. Where have you been? Her voice was shrill, panicked. On the cruise. You knew that. What's wrong? Is Ruth okay? Ruth is fine. She's just being dramatic. Mom, we need to meet. Don't go home yet. Meet me at the Starbucks on Main Street. Something in her tone raised every alarm bell I'd developed over 40 years of catching people in lies. Why can't I go home? Just don't. Please. I'll explain everything, but you need to meet me first. I hung up and immediately called Ruth's cell phone. It rang and rang, no answer. Then I called my home phone, the landline Ruth sometimes used. Nothing. I tried texting. No response. The flight from Seattle to Hartford took 5 hours. Every minute felt like an eternity. I kept calling Ruth. No answer. I called Jessica back. She didn't pick up. By the time I landed at 11 p.m. Eastern Time, I was operating on pure adrenaline and fear. I didn't meet Jessica at Starbucks. I drove straight home. The house looked normal from outside. Porch light on, Ruth's car in the driveway, curtains drawn, but the newspapers were piled up, 7 days' worth yellowing on the front steps. Ruth always brought in the paper first thing in the morning. I unlocked the door and called out, Ruth? I'm home. Are you here? Silence. Complete, terrifying silence. I walked through every room. Kitchen spotless, no dishes in the sink. Living room untouched, remote control exactly where I'd left it. Ruth's medications lined up on the bathroom counter, 7 days of pills still in their organizer, untaken. Then I heard it. A weak, rasping sound from below my feet. The basement. My basement door was locked from the outside, padlock installed where there'd never been one before. My hands fumbled with my keyring, but none of my keys fit this new lock. I grabbed a hammer from the garage and smashed the padlock off, metal screaming as it broke. I pulled open the door and was hit by a wall of heat and stench. Urine, sweat, and something else I couldn't identify. The basement stairs descended into darkness. The light switch didn't work when I flipped it. Someone had removed the bulb. Ruth? My voice echoed. Ruth, are you down there? A whimper. Barely human. I used my phone, flashlight, and descended carefully. The beam caught Ruth at the bottom of the stairs, collapsed against the concrete wall. She wore the same clothes from a week ago, now filthy and soaked with sweat. Her face was streaked with dried tears and dirt. Her lips were cracked and bleeding from dehydration. Bruises covered her arms and knees. I dropped beside her, checking her pulse with shaking fingers. Weak but there. Ruth, oh my God, Ruth, I'm here. You're safe now. Her eyes barely focused on me. Eleanor. Just a whisper. Water. I ran upstairs, grabbed bottles of water from my fridge, my phone already dialing 911 as I ran back down. 911. What's your emergency? My sister has been locked in my basement. She's severely dehydrated. I need an ambulance at 847 Maple Ridge Drive immediately. Is she conscious? Barely. She's been here for days, multiple days without water. The paramedics arrived within 8 minutes. They found us in the basement, Ruth sipping water while I held her against my chest like a child. They loaded her onto a stretcher, started an IV immediately, asked me questions I could barely answer. How long was she down here? I don't know. I've been gone 7 days. She could have been here the whole time. Who locked her in? I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out. At Hartford Hospital, the ER doctor was blunt. Doctor. Patricia Santos, mid-50 seconds with kind but serious eyes, pulled me aside while they admitted Ruth. Your sister has severe dehydration, stage 3. She's also showing signs of heat exhaustion and possible kidney damage. Another 12 hours and we'd be having a very different conversation. She was close to organ failure. Will she recover? We're admitting her for at least 48 hours of IV rehydration and monitoring. At her age, with her cancer history, complications can develop quickly. But she was lucky you found her when you did. They moved Ruth to a private room. Once she had fluids in her system and looked more stable, I sat beside her bed and asked the question I'd been dreading. Ruth, who did this to you? She started crying. Not loud sobs, just silent tears streaming down her damaged face. Jessica, everything inside me went cold. Tell me what happened. The story came out in fragments, Ruth's voice breaking frequently. She was too weak to speak for long, but I pieced it together. The day after I left for my cruise, September 8th, Jessica showed up at the guest house around 10 a.m. She seemed friendly, normal, asked if Ruth wanted help organizing her financial documents. Ruth thought it was sweet, let Jessica into her space. She made us tea, Ruth whispered. We sat at my little table and she asked about my life insurance money. I told her about the $180,000, how I was planning to use it for medical expenses if the cancer came back. She seemed so interested, so caring. Then what happened? She asked where I kept the documents. I showed her my filing cabinet. She started looking through everything. Bank statements, insurance papers, my social security card. I thought she was helping me organize. Ruth's hand gripped mine weakly. Then Derek came in. I didn't even hear him arrive. He had papers, official-looking forms. Jessica said they were setting up a trust to protect my money, that I needed to sign to make sure everything was legal. I trusted her, Eleanor. She's your daughter. I signed everything. What did you sign? Power of attorney. I didn't realize what it meant. The papers had so much legal language, and Jessica kept saying, just sign here, Aunt Ruth. This is to protect you. I felt sick. And then, 2 days later, September 10th, Jessica came back. She was different. Cold. She told me she'd transferred all my money to a safe account. When I asked to see the statements, she laughed. She said I was too stupid to manage money anyway, that the $180,000 was wasted on me. Ruth's voice dropped to barely a whisper. I said I was calling you. I reached for my phone. Derek grabbed my arm, twisted it behind my back. He's so much stronger than he looks. Jessica took my phone, my car keys, everything. They dragged me into your house, down to the basement. Derek installed that padlock while Jessica watched. Did they say anything else? Jessica said, Mom will be gone for 7 days. By the time she gets back, we'll be in Mexico with your money. You'll tell her you gave it to us willingly, or Derek comes back to finish what we started. Then they turned off the light and left me there. My hands were shaking, not from fear, from rage. How long were you down there? 5 days. I lost track of time after the 3rd day. No water, no food, no bathroom except a corner. I'm so ashamed. I tried to break the door, but I'm too weak. I screamed until my voice gave out. I thought I was going to die down there, Eleanor. I really thought that was it. I kissed her forehead. You're safe now. I promise you're safe. And Ruth, Jessica and Derek are going to pay for every single second you suffered. That night, after Ruth fell asleep, I sat in the hospital waiting room and made a list. Not an emotional list, a tactical one. 40 years as a CPA had taught me to approach problems methodically. This was just another account that needed balancing. I started with evidence collection. I drove home at midnight, put on latex gloves, and photographed everything. The basement with its smell still lingering, the broken padlock, the corner where Ruth had been forced to relieve herself, the new lock installation, clearly recent, the light bulb socket empty. I measured the space, documented the temperature with my phone. Still 8-9 degrees at night. I photographed Ruth's guest house, her filing cabinet, documents scattered where Jessica had rifled through them, her phone charger plugged in, phone missing. Her medications, 7 days of untaken pills, her calendar with my cruise dates marked clearly. Then I went to Ruth's bank. At 9 a.m. Saturday morning, I met with the branch manager, Michael Torres. I had Ruth's written authorization from the hospital, making me her financial proxy temporarily. Mr. Torres, I need to review all transactions on my sister's account from September 8th through today. His fingers flew across the keyboard. His expression changed as he read. Miss Whitmore, there's been unusual activity. September 10th, a wire transfer of $180,000 to an offshore account, the Cayman Islands. Was there a power of attorney on file authorizing this? He checked. Yes, filed September 9th, signed by Ruth Winters, notarized by. He paused. By a mobile notary service. I can pull the documents. The POA documents were a masterpiece of fraud. Ruth's signature was shaky, clearly signed under duress or while impaired. The notary seal looked real, but I'd bet money it was fake. The offshore account was registered to a shell company, Whitmore Financial Trust LLC, that didn't exist in any state business registry. Mr. Torres, my sister was imprisoned and coerced into signing this. I need these documents, and I need to report this as elder financial abuse. His face went pale. I'll contact our fraud department immediately. By Sunday afternoon, I had everything I needed. Bank records showing the wire transfer, photos of the crime scene, Ruth's medical records documenting her condition. And one more thing I'd discovered, my neighbor's Ring doorbell footage. The Johnsons lived across the street. Their camera captured everything. September 8th at 10:17 a.m., Jessica's car arriving at my house. September 10th at 2:33 p.m., Jessica and Derek entering, Derek carrying what looked like a new padlock. September 10th at 3:48 p.m., them leaving, looking around nervously. September 15th at 11:23 p.m., my car arriving home. Perfect timestamps. Perfect evidence. Monday morning at 9 a.m., I walked into Hartford Police Department and asked for the Financial Crimes Unit. Detective Sarah Martinez was younger than I expected, maybe 40, with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. I laid out everything. Documents, photos, video footage, medical records. I spoke calmly, factually, like I was presenting a client's tax return. Detective Martinez took notes, asked precise questions, reviewed every piece of evidence. Miss Whitmore, based on what you're showing me, we have probable cause for multiple felonies: elder abuse under Connecticut statute, false imprisonment, theft by deception, potentially kidnapping. The wire fraud makes this federal too. When will you arrest them? I'll contact them today for an interview. If they don't cooperate, we'll get a warrant. Given the severity and the offshore transfer, I expect them to be in custody by Wednesday. They said they were going to Mexico. They might run. I'll flag them for Homeland Security. If they try to leave the country, they'll be stopped at the border. I also hired an attorney. Richard Stone's firm had handled my retirement planning. He listened to my story, reviewed my documentation, and his expression grew harder with each page. Eleanor, what your daughter did is unconscionable. We're going to pursue both criminal prosecution and civil damages. I'm recommending we sue for $500,000, pain and suffering, medical costs, punitive damages. We'll also need to revise your estate plan immediately. How quickly can you do that? I can have a new will drafted by tomorrow. The old will leaving Jessica 50% of your assets. What do you want instead? I thought about the little girl I'd raised, the woman I thought I knew. Then I thought about Ruth's cracked lips, her bruised arms, her shame at what she'd been reduced to in that basement. Leave Jessica $1. State explicitly that the minimal provision is intentional due to her criminal actions against my sister. Everything else goes to Ruth, and if Ruth predeceases me, to the Connecticut Cancer Survivors Fund. Stone made notes. What about sentimental items? Family heirlooms? Nothing. She inherits nothing from me. Not memories, not mementos, nothing. She killed the mother she once had. By Tuesday afternoon, Detective Martinez called. We have a problem. Jessica and Derek didn't come in for the interview. We went to their last known address in West Hartford. The landlord says they moved out September 11th, broke the lease, no forwarding address. So they ran. Looks that way. But they made a mistake. They flew to Cancun on September 11th, and they used credit cards to book the flight. I have their Mexican hotel reservation. We've contacted the FBI and Mexican authorities. They'll be arrested within 48 hours and extradited. What happens then? They'll be arraigned. Bail will be set based on flight risk, which, given they already fled the country, will be substantial, probably $100,000 each. Then we wait for trial. Wednesday evening, my phone rang. Unknown Mexican number. I answered. Mom. Jessica's voice, small and terrified. Mom, please, you have to help me. Where are you? In jail. In Mexico. They arrested us at the hotel. They won't let us call anyone except you. Mom, please. I'm so scared. The jail here is horrible. You have to get us out. What did you do with Ruth's money? Silence. Then, quietly, it's gone. We spent it. The cryptocurrency investment. It was real. But the market crashed. We lost everything. You locked a 68-year-old cancer survivor in a basement for 5 days without water because you lost her life savings on a scam? It wasn't supposed to happen like that. We were just going to hold her for a day or two, just until you agreed to help us. But then you were on that cruise with no service, and we panicked. We didn't mean for it to go that far. You left her to die. We were going to come back. We were going to let her out before you got home. I swear, Mom, we wouldn't have let her actually die. I let the silence stretch. Finally, Jessica, you committed multiple felonies. You're facing federal charges. The FBI is involved. You're going to be extradited, prosecuted, and likely convicted. You can stop this. You can drop the charges. Please, Mom, I'm your daughter. You stopped being my daughter when you hurt Ruth. You want my help? Here's what I'll do. I'll make sure you get a public defender. That's it. That's all you get from me. Mom, please, I'm begging you. Did Ruth beg when she was locked in that basement? Did you listen when she pleaded for water? This is different. You're right. This is justice. Goodbye, Jessica. I hung up. Blocked the number. Then I called Richard Stone. They've been arrested in Mexico. Filed a civil lawsuit immediately. I want them served the moment they land back in Connecticut. Thursday morning's newspaper had the story. Local woman arrested in Mexico for alleged elder abuse. The article detailed the charges, the $180,000 theft, Ruth's imprisonment. It included Jessica's mugshot, her eyes red from crying, her hair disheveled. My phone exploded. Old friends, former colleagues, neighbors, some supportive, some shocked, some asking if I was really going to prosecute my own daughter. I gave everyone the same answer. She locked my 68-year-old sister in a basement for 5 days. She stole $180,000 from a cancer survivor. She's not my daughter anymore. She's a criminal. Derek's parents called Friday, his mother Patricia, crying so hard I could barely understand her. Please, Eleanor, please drop the charges against Derek. He's a good boy. Jessica led him astray. This is all her fault. He would never have done this without her influence. Mrs. Morrison. Derek installed the padlock. Derek twisted Ruth's arm. He's an adult who made adult choices. He's as guilty as Jessica. But he's our only son. He'll go to prison. His life will be ruined. He ruined his own life when he imprisoned an elderly woman. How can you be so heartless? Practice. Years of watching my daughter make terrible choices while I cleaned up her messes. This time, she cleans up her own mess. Jessica and Derek were extradited on September 25th. Ruth was still in the hospital, her kidney function slowly improving. I was there when Detective Martinez came to take her statement. Ruth's voice was stronger now, but she still cried as she described those 5 days, the heat, the thirst, the fear, the sounds of Derek's footsteps above her, knowing someone was in the house but ignoring her screams. The moment she stopped hoping and started preparing to die, I forgave my cancer, Ruth said quietly. I fought it. I beat it. I made peace with it. But I'll never forgive what Jessica did to me. She wasn't trying to save me from anything. She was trying to kill me to cover up her theft. The arraignment was October 2nd. I sat in the courtroom, front row, while Jessica and Derek were led in wearing orange jumpsuits. Jessica looked for me immediately, her eyes pleading. I looked back with nothing. No anger, no sympathy, nothing. Just cold assessment. Judge Marianne Foster read the charges. 5 felonies each: elder abuse, false imprisonment, theft, wire fraud, conspiracy. The prosecutor, ADA James Wilson, presented the evidence methodically. Medical records, bank statements, ring footage, Ruth's sworn statement. Jessica's public defender tried to argue for low bail. "Your Honor, my client has no prior record. She has family ties to the community." Judge Foster interrupted. "Counselor, your client fled to Mexico immediately after committing these crimes. She's an extreme flight risk. Bail is set at $250,000 each." Jessica gasped. Derek's face went white. Their families didn't have that kind of money. Neither did they. They'd be in jail until trial. After the hearing, Ada Wilson approached me. "Miss Whitmore, I wanted to discuss a potential plea deal." "I'm listening." "The defense is offering to plead no contest to all charges in exchange for concurrent sentences of 5 years, eligible for parole in 2. They'd also agree to full restitution, though realistically they'll never be able to pay $180,000. What would you recommend?" "Honestly? Take it. A trial could take a year, be emotionally exhausting, and there's always a risk of acquittal on some charges. This guarantees conviction and prison time." 5 years for nearly killing my sister? It's 5 years of their lives they'll never get back. 5 years of felony records that will follow them forever. 5 years of knowing they destroyed their own futures. Sometimes justice isn't about the length of the sentence. It's about the permanent consequences. I thought about it for 3 days. I visited Ruth in her recovery, asked what she wanted. "I just want it over," she said. "I don't want to testify at a trial. I don't want to relive those 5 days in front of strangers. If they admit what they did, if they go to prison, that's enough for me." So I agreed to the plea deal. The hearing was October 15th. Jessica and Derek stood before Judge Foster and admitted everything. Their voices were flat, mechanical, reading from prepared statements. "I, Jessica Whitmore, unlawfully imprisoned Ruth Winters in a basement for approximately 120 hours, causing severe physical and emotional harm. I stole $180,000 from her through fraudulent power of attorney. I take full responsibility for my actions." Judge Foster signed the sentencing order. 5 years in Connecticut Correctional Institution for Women for Jessica, 5 years in Northern Correctional for Derek. Both eligible for parole in 2 years with good behavior. The civil lawsuit settled that same day. Richard Stone had filed for $500,000 in damages. Jessica and Derek had no assets, no way to pay. But the settlement required them to sign over any future earnings, tax refunds, inheritances, anything they might acquire for the next 20 years. The judgment would follow them for decades. It also required a formal, recorded apology. In a conference room at the courthouse, with cameras rolling, Jessica read her statement. "I apologize to Ruth Winters and Eleanor Whitmore for my actions. I imprisoned Ruth, stole from her, and betrayed my family's trust. I am deeply sorry for the harm I caused." Her eyes were dry. There were no tears, no emotion. This wasn't an apology. It was legal compliance. That evening, I sat with Ruth in her hospital room. She was being discharged the next day, would stay with me while she recovered. The doctors said her kidneys were improving, she'd likely make a full physical recovery. Emotionally was another story. "Do you feel better?" Ruth asked. "Now that it's over? I feel like justice was served." "I don't feel better. I feel like I buried my daughter today." "You did what you had to do." "I know. That doesn't make it hurt less." Ruth took my hand. "Thank you for not letting her get away with it. Thank you for choosing me. Always. You're my sister. That matters more than anything else." 6 months later, I received a letter from Jessica at the women's prison. I recognized the handwriting immediately. I held it for a long time, debating whether to open it. Finally, I did. The letter was short. "Mom, I know you won't forgive me. I know I destroyed everything, but I need you to know that I think about Ruth every day. I think about what I did to her, how close I came to killing her. I think about the money I stole, the trust I betrayed. I'm in therapy here, trying to understand how I became this person. Derek and I are divorced. He blamed me for everything, said I ruined his life. Maybe I did. I ruined mine too. I don't expect you to write back. I don't expect anything from you anymore. I just needed you to know that I'm sorry, really sorry, not just because I got caught, but because I hurt someone you love. I hurt someone I was supposed to love too. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry." I read it 3 times. Then I put it in a drawer and went to make dinner for Ruth, who was living with me permanently now. We'd become closer through this nightmare. two sisters who'd survived something terrible together. I never wrote back to Jessica. Some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt. She'd get out in 2 years with good behavior. She'd be 37, with a felony record, no money, no family, no future. That was the consequence she'd chosen when she locked Ruth in that basement. As for me, I'd done what I set out to do. I'd protected Ruth, pursued justice, and ensured my daughter faced every consequence she deserved. The retirement I'd imagined was different now, quieter, marked by absence rather than celebration. But it was honest. It was real. And it was mine. Justice isn't always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it's just an elderly woman sitting with her sister, both of them alive and safe, knowing that the person who hurt them is paying for it. That's enough. That has to be enough.